Pakistan-Afghanistan talks, after Istanbul and Doha, a deadlock over the mechanism. The talks between Pakistan and the Afghan Taliban, held in Istanbul and Doha, sparked some hope, yet that hope remains incomplete. Both sides issue reassuring public statements, but the operational mechanism remains unresolved. The core issue today: Pakistan wants a written commitment from the Afghan Taliban that they will act against TTP and other terrorist elements operating from Afghan soil. The Taliban have provided verbal assurances but refuse to put that promise in writing, the sticking point where the process is stalled. Following initial agreements in Doha, where a ceasefire and provisional principles were discussed, Istanbul was expected to finalize practical elements of the mechanism. But the mechanism remains unfinished. Pakistan's position is clear: if terrorism against Pakistan originates from across the border, Afghan authorities must remove or act against those elements. The Afghan Taliban argue that without direct, verifiable evidence, they cannot designate groups within Afghanistan as Pakistan's attackers. Doing so could destabilize Afghanistan. A major problem during talks is proving responsibility. When attacks are claimed under pseudonyms or false group names, it becomes difficult to pin down who truly planned the attack. Pakistan seeks intelligence sharing and proof. The Taliban say they will act if evidence is presented. Reports suggest some TTP leaders and safe havens are located inside Afghanistan. Pakistan demands the detention of those leaders, dismantling of their bases, and measures preventing their return to border regions. Countries, particularly China, are watching closely because of significant interests in Afghanistan, investments, energy, and infrastructure. Reports of Chinese engineers being detained and mistreated have alarmed Beijing and affected investment deals. Afghanistan urgently needs foreign investment. China and Pakistan are major trading and investment partners. This economic leverage could be persuasive, but the Taliban are not showing willingness to change their policies or mindset easily. The issue of frozen Afghan assets and the U.S. role are critical background factors. These international constraints limit the Afghan administration's options and complicate the negotiating environment. Pakistan's stated policy is that if attacks originate from Afghan soil and Kabul does not act, Pakistan reserves the right to strike those locations. This stance has added friction in Istanbul talks. Qatar and Turkey have been assigned roles in creating and monitoring the mechanism, deciding when an operation is actionable and ensuring transparency. Yet implementation and accountability remain unresolved. The 2,600 kilometers Pakistan-Afghanistan border, tribal linkages, and local sympathies are strategic realities that give the Taliban a degree of sanctuary. Local dynamics and historical grievances will continue to shape bilateral relations. If the Taliban do not make substantial policy shifts and fail to take clear, verifiable action against extremist groups, regional stability will remain fragile. The worst-case scenario is escalating tensions that could lead to cross-border strikes and wider instability. Talks in Istanbul and Doha have opened a diplomatic channel, but the crucial step, a workable, written mechanism backed by evidence and guarantees, is still missing. Until verifiable proofs and written commitments appear, the negotiations will remain overshadowed by uncertainty and risk.